Hi everyone, my name is Savannah Stainback and I'm a junior dance education major and also a teaching scholar at Meredith College. And I've decided to do my thesis research on the impact of mirrors on dancers' mental health after learning choreography. So this is the title, Stuck in the Mirror, does a mirror in learning choreography affect the mental health of dancers? So this is just kind of an overview of what we're going to look at today. I have a lot of data and a lot of conclusions that I've come to, um, and I won't be able to share them all today. So if at any point you're like, you want to know more, just go ahead and shoot me an email. So as someone who doesn't fit the ideal of the ballerina body, mirrors can often be a way of distraction and unease within a dance class. Most of the time I'm unable to get out of the mirror and really feel a sensation of moving and movement in general. I felt this research study was necessary as there's little research related to the mirror having a direct impact on a dancer's mental health, especially following a dance class in which choreography is taught and students are learning that choreography. And if the all-encompassing dance world can really understand the emotional and mental effects and impacts that a mirror and standing in front of a mirror for many hours on end can have on students, it could potentially alter the way that dance classes are created and structured. So this is the problem in a study done by Justine J. Reel. 100% of participants gave positive responses to the item, when I look in the mirror, I become self-conscious about my body weight and appearance. And obviously, this is just one out of many studies on dancers and body image. And although this study cannot be generalized to all female college dancers, it's still important to note that the individual differences of each participant and the consensus of all participants feel about their headspaces and bodies following class, both in a mirrored and a non-mirrored space. So that is why I've decided to go through with this research. So the purpose of this research study was to see if there's a difference in dancers' logged mental health following a jazz, ballet, and modern contemporary dance class. And I taught 32 count phrases in 3 different sessions, jazz, ballet, and modern/contemporary. And they learned a phrase in the mirror space as well as a phrase in the non-mirrored space. And there's just truly, like I said before, not a lot of research on this information. So here are some assumptions. So I assumed that participants have experienced learning choreography with the use of a mirror and without the use of a mirror, and it was taught at a comparable dance skill level. All participants were either a Meredith Dance Theater member, which is the contemporary modern faculty company here at Meredith, or our dance ed majors here at Meredith. So it seemed like the choreography that I was teaching was at a comparable dance skill level to these participants. I assumed that they would have participated in ballet, jazz, and modern contemporary dance class prior to the study, and that they were completely honest about their feelings and filled out the questionnaires to the best of their abilities. So here's some limitations and delimitations. Limitations, obviously a sample size. Here at Meredith, there's not a ton of students, especially dance students. So I was only able to have about 7 participants included in the study. So obviously that is a limitation. In the ballet dance class, I did not include music to the choreography, but however, in jazz and modern contemporary, I did use music for the choreography. Obviously, there's a deep familiarity with the participants. We all are together all of the time. And so there's that relatability and just that friendship that we have already. There was conversation and community within the class, clapping after groups, talking to each other, just that sense of community that we have at Meredith in the dance program. And then in the questionnaires, there were both open-ended and multiple choice questions. So some delimitations. Obviously, the study only aims to focus on mental health as a whole, and which can include body image issues. I'm specifically not necessarily looking at some other mental health issues, really looking at body image here. So 7 Caucasian female identifying dancers aged 17 to 22 who are part of either MDT or dance majors. So obviously this cannot generalize college-aged female dancers or all dancers in general. And then we had a limited time schedule, as well as the time schedule within these sessions themselves. So this is my methodology. So as I said, participants were either a part of MDT or were a dance ed major. And I really wanted to focus on the small subset of students and participants. So the teaching of the class would be considered a typical dance class. We did a warm-up, 5 minutes in that style, then had 10 minutes of choreography learning and performing in Studio A, which is the mirrored space. And at the end, we would split into 2 groups when they felt they were ready to perform in front of the other participants. And then we all performed one last time together in every session. I used verbal cues in every session, typical in a regular dance class, and then also used that music in jazz and modern contemporary sessions. After learning the choreography in Studio A, they would then have 5 minutes to fill out a questionnaire, asking questions about how they felt during the class, if they wanted to include any other comments, if they were feeling confident, if they were feeling self-conscious. I had all of those kinds of questions. And then after the questionnaire was filled out, we would go into Studio B, which is the non-mirrored space, and learn a different set of choreography, 32 counts. Same process, was split into 2 groups, and then students would be able to perform for other participants. And then at the end, participants would continue to fill out a different questionnaire. It was the same exact questionnaire, except at the end, there was one more question asking if there was a difference for them between Studio A and Studio B. So these are some of my findings. So in general, there was a decrease in being able to concentrate from moving from Studio A to Studio B. So there was actually an increase in the answers of sometimes or true when asked if students had trouble concentrating during the class. So in all of them, ballet, jazz, and modern contemporary, this seemed to reign true. For self-consciousness, when asked the item, I felt self-conscious, there was a decrease in answers of true and sometimes when moving from Studio A to Studio B. So across the board, again, every single session, we see this decrease of what we can call self-consciousness. What participants, if they felt self-conscious, we see a decrease in that from the space with a mirror to the space without a mirror. And then my last data point that I focused on today was confidence. So when asked, I felt confident in how I looked. There was an increase in that self-confidence from Studio A to Studio B. There's an increase in answers of true. Specifically, as you can see here, we moved from 28.6% to 57.1% of answers here. But again, that's across the board in jazz, modern contemporary, and ballet sessions. So here are some stats. We have an average increase of answers of untrue or sometimes when asked about concentration from Studio A to Studio B, 37.8%. We have a 19% decrease in answers of untrue or sometimes when asked about self-consciousness, moving from Studio A to Studio B. And then we have an increase, about 23.8% on average, in answers of true when asked about self-confidence from Studio A to Studio B. And here are some conclusions and implications that I've been able to make from this data. As a dancer, being aware of your mental health in every dance space that you're in, whether it's mirrored or non-mirrored, making sure you're taking breaks if you need them, and remembering that you're more than just a look or a body. And we found, especially after this research study, that we were constantly looking in the mirror, always trying to fix things about ourselves, when that's just simply not the case. And we're trying to learn how to be better dancers without learning how to look a certain way or be a certain body. As an educator and as a future educator, knowing that the mirror can be incredibly efficient for learning movement. Obviously, we saw there was a decrease in concentration, and that can be especially hard for students and participants who are trying to learn movement in a space that doesn't have a mirror. Mirrors can be incredibly efficient, again, for learning movement, but they can also be hindering to students' mental health. So be willing to try different facings in the room, or be willing to teach by looking at the students instead of looking at the mirror and looking at the students from the mirror standpoint. And then obviously there's a ton of more future research that needs to be done on both the long-term and short-term effects of learning in front of a mirror. This is not a study that can be generalized to the entirety of the dance population as a whole. And here are the references that I've used for my literature review. And yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me at smstainback@email.meredith.edu. I'd love to reach out and answer any questions you might have. And thank you so much for your time.